Hey, CrossFit Hershey, Coach Justin here. I want to talk to you a little bit about the Open and your preparation for the Open. Just an upfront warning, this is a little bit of a longer video. I'm going to go through a top 10 list and some things to maybe look out for. And so therefore it's going to be a little longer video. Just want you to know that ahead of time. With that said, let's talk about the Open, the CrossFit Open. This year, the CrossFit Open is scheduled for, and I just realized I got a really bad marker and I've got really bad handwriting in the first place. So I brought extra ones. So we'll just go over this with this blue one. I do this sometimes on the board. You probably have seen my handwriting. It's awful. But the CrossFit Open is February 18th, 2021. That's the planned date of the Open as of now. That can change, and I'm going to put a prediction out there, could be wrong, that it's going to change. And the reason I think it's going to change is because CrossFit has a lot to gain from a lot of participation in the Open, because even that small little fee we pay to participate in the Open, the most people they can get to participate, the more people they can get to participate, the better. And with that being said, if coronavirus is still a potential thing that's limiting people from getting into gyms, we might see this get pushed back. But let's just assume for today that that date is accurate. We're less than 90 days out from that date. And so this is a great time to begin preparing, begin getting ready for the Open. And as we really quick, also, some of us maybe are new here. Maybe you've done 7 Opens, 10 Opens, I don't know. I have done 4 Opens. So I mean, you've maybe done more than me, or maybe you've never done an Open before and you're like, Justin, what's an Open? I should probably tell you what that is. So the CrossFit Open is a competition. It's usually over 5 weeks. And the workouts are released, I think on Thursday. And then over the weekend you do them, and then they need to be submitted in final by Monday. And most gyms do like Friday testing that particular, competing in that particular workout. You get a judge. It's part of your class time during that, or maybe you do it over the weekend. But ultimately, it's an opportunity for us to compete, for us to do our best, for us to rally around. The atmosphere is usually fun and big, and we're cheering each other on. We're trying to get our absolute best score possible. Now, look, some of you might come to class and do it that way, but the adrenaline of the Open is a whole different thing. And if you haven't participated, it's going to be really awesome to have you participate in 2021 when the Open comes around. And that is a worldwide competition. Everybody's signed up from CrossFit gyms overseas to right down the road, like all over. And then there's a leaderboard, and you get to kind of see where you stack up. And if you did it a couple years ago, over the last 2 years, for example, you kind of get to see if you're growing as an athlete, where you're at on the leaderboard. Maybe you have friends that are also in the Open that are at other gyms. You get to kind of check their scores. It's a fun time. And so it might be a little stressful time too. Some of you are like, a fun time, Justin. It's stressful. But it's stressful because it's an opportunity for us to test ourselves. And I actually think that's really good for us because it usually does a few things. One, it can reveal some weaknesses we have, and it can encourage us to continue to focus on the fundamentals, moving well, really dialing in just some of the fundamental CrossFit movements. What's interesting about the Open is that it's really, from a data perspective, which I enjoy kind of the analytics of the sport. So from the analytics of the sport, it's actually quite predictable to know what we're going to see in the Open. Now, we might not know exactly how it's going to be packaged. Dave Castro definitely, we don't know always. And I'll give you some things that I would say, I would bet all my money on this, but it still could be with Castro. You just never know. But what I want to give you right now is 10 movements I think you should focus on between now and the Open. If you're thinking about getting better at any of these movements already in the back of your head, now's the time to actually drill it. Now's the time to put in the effort, put in the work to get better at that particular movement. And so now I don't think you're going to be able to get better at all 10 of these movements necessarily, but I guess I'm saying here's a top 10 list, and they're actually in order of what I think is most important. And that's kind of important too. They're in order of how much they show up, and ultimately, depending upon your weakness, you'll need to order them for yourself. But this is kind of my hierarchical order in some sense of these movements. So here we go. So the very first movement that you can get better at for the open is toes to bar. So toes to bar has been in every single open. So what that means is it means that it will be in the open. Again, unless Castro does something crazy, it's going to show up in the open. And so working on our toes to bar, and I've actually seen a ton of athletes at CrossFit Hershey grow in their toes to bar just in the few months that I've been here. And so a few of you have singles for toes to bar, which is great because you didn't even have a toes to bar a month ago. So, and now you have singles. You can begin working really hard on that kip and trying to get string 2 together on the toes to bar. You could do all kinds of drills to get stronger at toes to bar, but ultimately we're gonna see toes to bar in the open. It's a guarantee. And with that being the case, drilling toes to bar is a great idea as we head into the open season. Okay, next. And there's another one that I see a lot of people working on, or at least telling me they want to get better at, and that is double unders. So for double unders, many of us, including myself, want to get better at double unders, want to be able to string together longer sets, want to be able to breathe better and be looser during our double unders. This is a great time to work on double unders. Now, last year, I want to say it was 2021, we saw double unders in an interesting way. We saw it with only sets of 24, I believe. I believe it was that workout with actually toes to bar, double unders. It was a really fast moving workout is what I remember. And for those people who were new to double unders or were just novice level at double unders, it was like perfect because it was only 24. But I can remember 2 years prior where it was like, hey, peel off a set of 100 double unders or 200 double, and you're just sitting here like, I can't do that many in a row without just either blowing up or tripping and tripping and tripping and tripping and then having to rest, get loose again, bring my heart rate back down again, and get back to this. Ultimately, I guess what I'm trying to communicate to you is working double unders in the capacity of like even large sets, because I don't think we're going to see 24 double unders in the open again. If that workout was good for you because of the short grouping that it was, I'll be shocked if we see that small of double unders again. We're probably going to see large double unders. So begin working on that. It's a great skill to have. Talk to a coach about some of the cues or drills that you can begin using, maybe in open gym times, or come early before class, or stay late after, and work on your double unders. All right, next up. Thrusters, everyone's favorite movement. So the toes to bar, the double under, the thruster have been in every single open. And traditionally, we're going to see barbell thrusters, although we have seen dumbbell thrusters. I want to say twice we've seen that movement. And typically we see the thruster, I believe, in the last week of the open, but then it kind of got moved around. But usually I think if it's almost every year except last year, I believe the thruster showed up in the 0.5, the 5th week. And I believe usually paired with pull-ups. So Fran-esque, if you will. If you don't know Fran, that's 21, 15, 9 pull-ups and thrusters. And so with the thruster, this is a great time to work on that front rack mobility. Really work on opening that up, because for many of you, that limit of the thruster is going to be that you're just not getting your elbows through. You're not sitting the bar on your shelf. That's what we talk about, creating a shelf here. And when we do that, when our hip pops, the bar pops just so much more, and we take all that pressure off of our shoulders, especially if we're, again, coupling this with another shoulder movement like pull-ups or other things. We might find that that small efficiency cue of just getting better here is actually going to make a huge difference. Also, and this goes with all of these, really begin working the open standards for these. So, for example, let's talk thrusters. You're going to have a judge that is not going to count this overhead, your elbow's still bent, as a rep. You got to lock that out. They're not going to count when you don't hit depth in a squat. They're going to be standing there with a clipboard counting your reps. And if you are not going to depth, or if you are not locking out at the top, you are not going to get the rep. They're going to call it a no rep. And so we can begin even now holding ourselves to a higher standard in workouts when we see these movements show up. Now look, here's my thoughts as a coach. You should be holding yourself to this standard all the time, really trying to move as well as you can in workouts, and just being that type of person who's like, I want to make sure I'm moving the right way. But ultimately, I'm saying dial it in even more between now and the open, because it's only going to serve you good and well to hit depth on thrusters. So next thing we're going to see in the open, I'm calling it, is snatches. Snatches have been in every open. Again, mostly barbell, but it's shown up twice as dumbbell. And so being mindful that it's unlikely we'll see the single arm dumbbell snatch, but it could show up. It's more likely we're going to see either like a ground to overhead like we saw last year, where you don't have to necessarily snatch it. You could clean and jerk it. So that's maybe user's choice. We've seen a lot of ground to overhead throughout the history of the open. Or it might even show itself as a ladder of sorts, that you're doing other work and then coming back to it, and it's growing in weight as you come back to it. The big thing with the snatch between now and the open, if you're going to go for like a 1 rep max snatch, this is not the time to do that. I'm not saying, like, I want to be clear. Some of you maybe are elite level athletes, and the snatch is the one thing you need to dial in and go for that 1 rep max between now and the open. And you want to get better at that. But the truth is, between now and the open, if you were able to tack on 5 pounds to your 1 rep max in the snatch, maybe even 10, that would be really, really good. But that would be a lot of work and a lot of time. The thing I'm guessing most people watching this would benefit from working on between now and the open is cycling a barbell. And I would actually say, when you look at the open, it mostly shows up as a 95-65 bar. So 95 for the guys, 65 for the ladies. Working on cycling 95 and 65. What do I mean by cycling? I mean, maybe even setting an EMOM timer, EMOM meaning every minute on the minute, and saying, okay, I'm going to cycle 5, but I want to cycle these well. I don't want to drop in between, so that we're not doing singles. We're doing a snatch. We're really focusing on bringing it down the right way, keeping it close to our body, tapping the ground and coming back up for another snatch. And maybe we start with 5 every minute on the minute. And then the next week we do 6 every minute on the minute for maybe 5 minutes. And then the next week we do 7. I don't know. Something like that, to where we're starting to get familiar with snatching in cyclic, like cycles, like that we're actually being able to cycle that barbell, because it's more likely, based on open history, that we're actually going to see a 95-65 pound barbell that we have to cycle. Now, EMOMs are fine. It's not necessarily going to work your lungs as much as it is going to help you drill that movement. You will need to probably cycle those snatches alongside who knows what other movement. Again, traditionally, I'm guessing it's going to be something like burpees over the bar in that kind of a workout, what we saw last year. But it could be any other movement as well. And ultimately, you're going to probably want to practice what it feels like to cycle when you're under fatigue, so you know what kind of reps you can cycle, what kind of rest you have to, prepare for after that. All of those fun things. Okay, next up on our list, number 5, is the muscle up. Now, the muscle up shows up as 2 things. It could be a ring muscle up, or it could be a bar muscle up. Now, we have seen the ring muscle up more. It has occurred more than the bar muscle up, but it could be either, or it could be both. Depending upon the athlete you are, again, this is very dependent on where you are as an athlete. The muscle up might be something worth working on between now and the Open, but it might also be something worth saying, you know what? I'm going to try to dial in these 4 things. And when the muscle up comes in the workout, I'm going to go for it. I might even drill it a little bit that weekend and hopefully maybe hit it on Monday morning or hit it on Sunday or something. But the thing is if you want to spend the next, 80 days or however long it is, working to get that muscle up so that you're ready to go, and get that muscle up in the workout, that could really be something that sets you apart. So that could be awesome. But if you put all that work in and you still don't get the muscle up and you neglect all this other, I would just call it lower hanging fruit. That I don't think is the best strategy. Although muscle ups will be in the Open. They've been in every Open. All 5 of these movements have been in every single Open we've had. Now, we're going to go on to movements that have not been in every Open that we've had, but they've been in most, okay? So almost every Open we've had. This is number 6, and it is the chest to bar pull-up. So the chest to bar pull-up has been in 9 of 10 Opens. So it's pretty much been in every Open. We're gonna see it again. I'm as confident as I am that we're gonna see the chest to bar as we're gonna see these, or at least I just think we're not gonna see regular pull-ups because they're harder to judge. Chest to bar is a little easier on the judge. And since you have, novice judges trying to do their best to follow the standards that are set by HQ, they're going to make it easy, and they found that the chest to bar standard is an easier standard to judge. And so it's very likely you're going to see chest to bar pull-ups. So for example, today we did rowing, and we did chest to bar pull-ups, and we did thrusters. That was actually it was Jackie on steroids, whatever it was 2K row, and then 100 barbell thrusters and 30 chest to bar pull-ups. That was actually a great workout that we could totally see showing up in the Open. I have a feeling Mayhem released that workout as a kind of an Open primer on those movements because they're probably considering that we're 90 days out. My guess would be our programming as we get closer to the Open is going to look like more of these movements are going to be showing up every single week probably because they're going to be preparing us in our programming for the Open. But with that said, chest to bar pull-ups can be tough. If you struggle with just pull-ups in general, chest to bar, you got to get that little extra pull, even that extra kip. I know for me, it's an extra kipping motion I have to do. I really got to focus on getting my head through more. We need to be drilling that. We need to be working on that. We need to be getting stronger in our pull-up, and ultimately, we need to. If we don't have chest to bar pull-ups, maybe we have pull-ups. Maybe we could get to a single chest to bar pull-up with a big kip into a single. If you could get that, if you don't have that now and you could get that before the Open, that will serve you well because I've done Open workouts where I've singled the chest to bar and even beat someone next to me who was kipping the chest to bar. And that was because they were doing big sets and then they were resting for a long time. And I was able to single a chest to bar, drop off the bar, shake it, single a chest to bar, drop off the bar, shake it, single a chest to bar. And I was able to keep that kind of rhythm going, which ultimately, even though they were peeling off bigger numbers, they were taking longer breaks. And so for some of us, that actually might be something that could allow us to close a pretty significant gap with, again, low hanging fruit. If you already have your pull up, but you're just working on that chest to bar pull up, it's really about getting that explosiveness in the kip and working to throw that chest up to the bar. So a great one to also drill as we prepare. I'm as confident that one's going to show up as I am these ones. And I'm also as confident that this one's going to show up. This is our next movement. Number 7 is wall balls. Everyone's favorite movement. So the wall balls will be in the Open. They've been same as chest to bar, 9 out of 10. We've seen wall balls, and so they will be in the Open. Normally these are 20-14, so 20 for the guys, 14 for the ladies. So there's a few strategies to practice these wall balls. Maybe work on some capacity stuff again, maybe thinking even kind of similar to cycling the snatch, cycling the wall ball, working to get, for the guys, maybe, and this, again, athlete dependent, but can I do 20 wall balls and go right into something else, like transition right into rowing, transition right into toes to bar, transition right into double unders? Can I pair these wall balls with another movement, maybe do 20 of them, maybe do 25 of them, maybe do 30 of them? What is my breaking point where I know now I have to break? So if I see that number, I know that's going to be 2 sets. Beginning to learn those things about yourself as an athlete between now and the Open will be really helpful for you being as efficient as you can be. So any workouts that have wall balls between now and the Open, it's a great opportunity for you to say, okay, what does my max set that I can also get to the next movement look like? What does my max set look like that when I'm done, I'm wrecked look like? I mean, I don't know that that's as important as knowing what you can also continue to move at. Where do I have to break? How long do I have to break? If I do a set of 20, how long do I have to break before I can go back up and do another set of 20? Or maybe there's 30 in a workout. If I do 20, how long do I have to rest before I go back and do 10? Obviously, we're talking about lots of math. You might not geek out over this stuff, but I love thinking about that even for myself as I'm in a workout. Another thing to think about, especially for those of you who are kind of like, I like wall balls, this is where I can gain some ground. I already know all those numbers about myself, Justin. I kind of know what to expect. CrossFit Hershey just got some 25-pound wall balls. I actually think that's really good because I think jumping up to a 30, you've literally added 50% of the weight, but jumping up to a 25, it's a small enough jump to where you can begin to feel the weight of that, but it's not so much that it's overbearing. So beginning to maybe incorporate a 25-pound wall ball into workouts between now and the Open, so that when you get to the Open, it's a 20-pound wall ball, it feels light. It feels easy because you've been doing the 25-pound wall ball. Now again, that's if you're an athlete who's comfortable with wall balls, who enjoys wall balls, who maybe this is a movement that's good for you. This is an easy way to maybe take it up a notch, is to begin giving your body between now and the Open the stimulus of feeling something heavier, so that when we do the Open, it's a little bit lighter on you, a little bit easier. It's just one idea, something you could consider. All right, our 8th one is everyone's favorite that will definitely be in the Open, and it's been in 9 of 10 of the Opens, and that is burpees. Oh, the dreaded burpees in the Open. Now, for burpees in the Open, in 2015 was actually the anomaly year where burpees did not show up, which, that's kind of weird that they didn't show up in 2015. I guess 2021, we could get the gift. Oh, it would be such a gift for me personally if burpees did not show up. Please don't show up. But they will be there. They're going to be there. The question is, what kind of burpees are we going to see? So here's the deal. We're not going to see burpees like we do them in a workout that are just burpees. We're not going to see that. The reason is because that standard is hard to judge. Everyone's got kind of a different way. Some of you stand up in a burpee and you don't jump. Some of us do jump. Some of us jump and put our hands above our heads. Everybody kind of has a different standard at the top of a burpee, even though there probably is an actual uniform standard, but who cares? The point being, in the beginning, CrossFit did burpees to a target. You jumped up and had to touch a target. So there was a target that everyone had to jump to. More recently, what we've seen, and more likely what we will see this coming year, is that we'll be doing burpees over the bar, or we'll be doing burpees over a box, meaning burpee box jumps, okay? Now, here's the deal. The standard for burpees continually changes. It's a little bit frustrating. Sometimes you got to send both feet back and bring both feet up. Sometimes you can step up with a foot. You got to leave with 2 feet, land on 2 feet, and then you watch these videos of these elite level athletes do it, and you're like, that's not leaving on 2 feet. That's leaving on 1 foot. You can go look at the burpee standards and choose one to work on. Maybe talk to a coach and ask, hey, can you just look at my burpees and let me know if you think this is going to be passable in the Open? Because the last thing you want to do is between now and the Open, drill burpees in a way that is not the Open standard, and then end up getting to the Open and being like, everything I've been working on for burpees is not the standard, and I got comfortable with that particular movement. But the truth is, we don't really know exactly the standard that they're going to have because they've changed it pretty frequently with this particular movement. What I do know is this: burpees suck. And your capacity to do them, to drop to the floor and get back up as fast as you can definitely grow between now and the Open. This is probably, of everything, burpees might be the lowest hanging fruit for every single athlete. And that is because you can build an engine between now and the Open. You can work on that cardiovascular endurance between now and the Open. A way to do that is to do death by burpees. Now, death by burpees is hard. Death bys in any workout is hard. If you've ever done a death by workout, it's an EMOM. So you set an every minute on the minute clock, whether that's on your phone during open gym or on a clock, or before a class starts, after a class, however you want to do it, or even at home. This is one you could actually drill at home. I just thought of that. You could do this at home on an off day or on a day where you can't get to the gym. This is a perfect workout to do at home. So the way I like to do death bys for burpees is, so you start with just one burpee on the first minute, and it's super easy. And then it's 2 burpees on the next minute, and then it's 3 burpees on the next minute, and you're adding a rep every single minute, okay? And eventually you're going to do 10 burpees in a minute, and then the next minute you're going to have to do 11, and then the next minute you're going to have to do 12, and you realize really quickly, oh wow, I'm not getting as much recovery and rest as I was getting that first time. What I like to do is, wherever you hit failure, okay, like let's say you fail at 15. Let's say 15 is when the buzzer went buzz and you weren't done with your 15th rep yet, so you didn't make it to the round of 16. Subtract from there. For me, I would typically do 5. But I guess that's athlete dependent, depending upon how high you get. But subtract, it's probably better to do a percentage now that I think about it. Maybe subtract 33% or 30% or 40%, somewhere in that window, 30 to 40%. Subtract 30-40% of whatever rep you hit for your last one, and then rest a minute. Take that full minute of rest after that. Let that EMOM timer keep going, and as soon as it hits the next minute, now in that case, I would do 10, okay? I would do 10 burpees, and I would see how long I could hold 10 burpees a minute. Even after I just got done doing all of that work for that, seeing how long I could do 10. The cool thing about this is you're competing against a clock. So it helps you actually feel that sense of like, I have to go. I can't dog it. In a workout with burpees, we've all been there. It's like a AMRAP, and we're like, you know what? I'm going to dog it a little bit on this, right? When it's an EMOM, it's a little harder to dog it because you're trying to chase that clock, especially a death by. You're trying to finish it so you don't get capped in that minute. So that's just one idea. There's other burpee workouts. I'm just giving you one that I enjoy and one that might build your engine between now and the Open. Honestly, if you did that workout I just described 5 times between now and the Open, I guarantee you're going to learn a lot about burpees, a lot about how to be more efficient with burpees, and ultimately, I guarantee you're going to do better in the Open when the burpees show up than you would if you didn't do that a few times. So, and when it comes to the burpees, you might want to lay something out to jump over because it's most likely we're probably going to see bar-facing burpees, meaning the burpees aren't just going to be burpees to standing up. You're going to be jumping over something. So I would actually do whatever you're going to do at home to where you're actually coming up and then jumping over something. And we can talk about efficiency tips with that at a later time. Maybe we'll break down some common Open movements and some efficiency tips at those movements between now and the Open. Now, there are 2 other movements that I believe are going to show up because of the streaky nature of the movements. And I'll change the color of my marker here for these ones. So number 9 is, wow, that's terrible. Number 9 is row cals. So we are going to see the rower in calorie form. This has been 7 out of the 10 years, and it's been 7 years straight that we've been seeing this as a standard. Every gym does not have assault bikes. Some have Z-Bex bikes, some have, others. The row and the calories seems to be the standardized form of this cyclical kind of work that is easy to program, easy to test, easy to judge all around. Because of that, we're going to see it, and because it's been around for 7 years. And so beginning to get more efficient on the row. Again, we just saw the row today, the day I'm recording this. We just saw the row, and even a 2,000 meter row. So normally in the row, it's not going to show up in meters. It'll show up in cals, but it could show up in meters. There's nothing keeping it from showing up in meters. And really, it's not as much something for you to worry about whether it shows up in cals or meters between now and the Open. It's more getting familiar with rowing under control. I shared a video even of Glenn pulling, and just you could see how controlled he was, how intentional every single pull was, how he was more concerned about power than going fast, because this doesn't do anything for me if I'm rowing as much as strong and then controlled back in, and then strong and then controlled back in. So really thinking and maybe working through, how can I lower my strokes per minute but keep my power and grow my power even? Because I'm guessing if you've got a rate of like 32, 33, 34 per minute, you could be far more powerful at 28, 27 strokes per minute. And I love geeking out on the rower. So if you have questions about the rower, come talk to me. I can help you, or just watch you row and kind of maybe give you some tips and tricks to just be a little more efficient on the row. And many of the other coaches as well would love to do that. All right. The other thing we're definitely going to see, handstand pushups are going to be in the Open. They have been in the Open for 6 years. So, and that's 6 years straight, by the way. So the fact that they've done them for 6 years straight is pretty much indicating that they're going to be here again. Now, I can't tell you anything about the standard for handstand pushups, because that is another standard that consistently changes and is definitely the standard that is most frustrating for CrossFitters. I'll never forget judging my good friend in an Open workout where he would lock out. It was the year that they did the line and the box and all that, and he would lock out, and I would be like, "You're not there yet, just a little more," and he would like flex his, to push his heels out, and then he would almost like extend his shoulders, and then he would barely tap the line, and I'd be like, "Rep," and then he would drop, and it was just like every rep was a mess. It was not good, and it was a bad workout for him, and I felt terrible judging it. And since then, they changed the standard, but they changed it. I don't know what standard we're going to see, is what I guess I'm saying. The standard does not seem to be uniform or something that CrossFit has necessarily landed on. So be prepared for the potential of this one being very frustrating. But ultimately, you can get stronger at this between now and the Open. Maybe you're an athlete who does not have handstand push-ups, and between now and the Open, you might be able to just continue to work on strength, just even kicking up on the wall, feeling what it's like. And who knows, maybe you'll get your first handstand push-up in the Open. I got my first strict handstand push-up in the Open. I was actually in Israel. I had to do, I think it was like I was like jet lagged from flying over there, and it was in the middle of the Open, and I went to CrossFit Jerusalem and had to do the workout during like an Open gym, and one of their members was kind enough to judge me for it. And I think it was like walking lunges, and this was in 2019. I think it was like walking lunges, and there was some other stuff, but it was like strict handstand push-up, and I got, or maybe, yeah, I think it was strict. I don't think it was kipping. And I got it anyway for the first time in the Open. I got that movement. And so that's a memory that I have of like, wow, that's really cool that I got that in that moment. And I failed multiple times before I got it. And so you're going to have that with movements, maybe like toes to bar if you don't have it, or maybe muscle up if you don't have it, or handstand push up if you don't have it, or chest to bar. But you can begin for those kind of ones that require a little bit of strength and a little bit of skill. Begin drilling it now, even if you're like, I don't think I'll get one by the Open. I don't think that's possible. Begin to work on it, because you never know what adrenaline in that moment might make up for. Because I actually went into that workout in Jerusalem not feeling like I was going to get a strict handstand pushup. I was like, just get this work done as fast as you can so you can get the time break, the tiebreaker time, because I don't think you're going to get a handstand pushup. And I think I ended up getting like 2 or 3. I don't know. But anyway, all that to say, this is something to work out. And a freebie, because this is a top 10 list, but I'll go ahead and give you an 11 just for fun, is handstand walking. So handstand walking has shown up for 3 years in a row in the Open, and this is obviously going to be your more elite level athletes here that are able to walk on their hands, or those who come from a gymnast background. But if you have handstand walking or you're close to it, you usually have to earn it. I want to be clear here for handstand walking, from what I remember in the Open so far, the 3 years we've seen it, I think you've had to do a decent amount of work before you get to the handstand walking. And I think they're doing that because they recognize not everyone has the skill. Let's at least allow those who maybe don't have the skill to get a decent workout before they get to this point. But ultimately, you should still be getting proficient at all the other stuff. But this particular movement is very likely to show up again. It's something that's kind of a standard now. To be able to walk on your hands is a standard within CrossFit now. So with that being the case, if you're somebody who is really close to walking on your hands, you're like, I'm so close. Like I can kick up close to the wall and get a couple hand steps and then I land on the wall, it might be good to start saying, okay, how do I get to a point to where I can walk in like 5 or 10 feet chunks between now and the Open? That could be worth drilling. But if you ignore everything else, I don't think that's wise. I think it's very likely that you're going to have to earn your right to handstand walk. And the other thing is, don't just drill between now and the Open walking on your hands when you're not fatigued, because you're probably going to be fatigued when you have to do it in the Open. So you might want to say, I'm going to do some wall balls and some double unders and then do some handstand walking, because those wall balls are going to work your shoulders, and then you're going to have to swing that rope a little bit, and then you're going to try to walk on your hands, and you're going to be like, oh, this feels way different than when I walk on my hands when I'm fresh. It's probably going to feel way different in the Open when you walk on your hands, because you're not going to be fresh. And so make sure as you practice handstand walking, you're also practicing it under fatigue. Certainly don't put yourself in any compromised positions, but I guess I'm just saying, if you're like, I got it, I can walk 10 feet on my hands, I'll be able to do it in the Open, but you've only ever walked 10 feet on your hands completely fresh, you may want to say, okay, I got that. Now I need to see how far I can walk on my hands in the middle of a workout, in the middle of like breathing heavy and feeling some fatigue. Now, this is the top 11 list. You're probably going to see, again, these movements showing up more frequently in our programming between now and the Open. I want to talk about some trap movements, or some movements that people might say, oh, I want to do that movement because that's a movement I've seen in the Open. And these are movements we've had in the Open. And so I'm not saying to completely ignore them, but I'm just saying be cautious. The first one I see people right now, I've literally seen a few of my friends that I know that are preparing for the Open being like, I need to work on this. And I just want to be clear, if you're an elite level athlete, this might be something worth working on. This might be something worth doing. But for many of us, this is not something worth like spending now till the Open really dialing in and focusing on. And that is pistols. Pistols have shown up in the Open once, and they showed up last year, and they were highly criticized. They were highly criticized because you're giving the general population pistols. And I mean, everyone has their opinion on this. I don't really have like opinion personally as a coach, but I do think putting pistols in the Open is likely going to put people who don't have pistols in a position to try to get pistols and probably do more pistols than they're actually capable of doing, and potentially injure themselves, because pistols, they're a compromised movement. Single leg squatting, if that's not something you've been doing, or if you don't have the requisite strength for that, it can put your knee in a bad position. It's not necessarily ideal. Also, it's not the easiest movement to judge. I mean, it was difficult even for me judging some people and their pistols, whether they were going super fast or were they getting below depth. Like it can be a little harder because we're used to seeing a squat But this is like the single legness of it. You're trying to also watch, did the other leg touch the ground if there's someone who gets their foot really close to the ground. So I don't know if we're going to see pistols again. I think of that more as a regional sanctionals level movement, but it could show up. But you could also spend a lot of time between now and the Open working on it, and it doesn't show up. So I would just be cautious how much time you spend on that movement between now and the Open. Again, if you're an elite level athlete, you've got most of this dialed in, and you're just trying to, you probably do need to focus on it. But for most of us in the general population, pistols isn't something we really, really, really need to focus on. Now, lunging. So lunging movements have shown up 3 of the last 5 Opens. So it's possible we're going to see lunges. It's also like kind of one of those things that I have a feeling we're not going to see, but we could. I mean, I do think one of the things we might see in the Open is that toe to bar lunge workout that we saw in the CrossFit Games this past year, or some variation of that. Because again, that pairs the toes to bar and the lunge movement, and that kind of front rack kettlebell lunge movement. But I don't know that this is something necessarily to be like, I got to get stronger at lunges between now and the Open, because if I don't, I'm going to fail. Again, something we've seen before, something you might remember, because you might be like, oh, I remember those lunges in the Open. They were awful. And that's usually what we determine to kind of focus on. We say, I remember that back there and it was awful. But we remember that one thing that was awful that hasn't statistically speaking shown up as much of these other movements have shown up. And so do we want to give it the attention? Again, up to you as an athlete. I'm just trying to give you some of the data as you determine what you're going to work on between now and the Open. A few more movements here. Box jumps. Now, oh my gosh, my handwriting is awful. So for box jumps have been in 2 of the last 6 Opens, and you're probably going to see it paired with burpees if you see it. So if you do practice box jumps, practice them with burpees. Okay, that's really important. And it'll be a box jump over. But as far as like box jumps just showing up on their own, it could happen. But it's, I guess what I'm saying is 2 of the last 6, it's unlikely it'll happen based on the numbers. A standard movement that we do regularly in CrossFit, that you're seeing regularly in classes, so something you've had a chance to work on. When it does show up in class between now and the Open, work on it. I mean, think about it. What if this was an Open workout? How would I approach it? How would I break it up? What do I need to focus on, my mechanics wise, those kind of things. But I don't think it needs as much special attention as these top 10 do, even potentially 11 if you're working on handstand walking. And I have one more that I would say is not as important as dialing in these 10. Not that it's not important, just that it's not as important. And that is 1 rep maxing something. I'll just say clean and jerk, snatch, whatever. Here's the deal. Strength takes a long time to build. Getting stronger at a clean and jerk, getting stronger at a snatch, it takes a long time to build. Now, if you are a very new to CrossFit athlete, you might be PRing every single cycle, and that is awesome. And we're excited that you're in that kind of first wave of adaptation. But the truth is, for most of us who've been in CrossFit for maybe 2-3 years plus, once we get our true number, it begins to be a grind to get every 5 pounds, 10 pounds. And it becomes that we got to be on a 12-week cycle, maybe of lifting, or an 8-week cycle, Wendler or whatever, something similar to that, to where we're like, okay, I got to be on this type of a cycle. And then after 8 weeks, I got to test again, and look at that. I got a 5 pound on my back squat. And that is something to be celebrated if you can get that in 8 weeks. But here's the deal. We don't have that much time between now and the Open. I mean, now that might get moved, like I had said earlier. It might be that this particular date is down the road. But ultimately, what I'm trying to say is you can spend a lot of time on this 1 rep max between now and the Open and really not see much of a result in your 1 rep max. But then even worse, it might not even show up. Like you might drill the 1 rep max back squat, but they have instead a 1 rep max snatch. You might drill the 1 rep max snatch, but it's a 1 rep max deadlift. I don't, who knows what they're going to do. So even you're not going to be able to drill everything that could potentially be 1 rep maxed. You're also, here's the other deal. I'll never forget the one, what was it? It was the burpee. I forget what it was, but it was one where you had to do like burpees and I don't know if it was single arm thrusters or dumbbell thrusters, something. It was an awful workout. And then you had to, so that was scored as a time. And then you had to go for your max. I want to say it was just a max clean. But I couldn't even get 80% of my clean because I was so gassed from the workout. So then becomes the next question. You might get a great 1 rep max, but you didn't do it when you were fatigued. And now they're telling you to do it when you're fatigued. So how are you going to do when you have to do it when you're fatigued? These are all things you have to consider in the open. Again, I geek out over these things. You might be sitting here listening to this like, oh my gosh, Justin, what are you doing? But I think about these things. So if I was to be thinking, am I going to work on 1 rep maxing, or am I going to work on, for example, snatches at 95 pounds? It's better to probably work on snatches at 95 pounds or clean and jerking at 95 pounds. Or even things like Grace and Isabel might be good workouts to drill, or that doesn't necessarily have to be for time 30 reps, but 30 reps broken up in some way over an EMOM that can kind of work on cycling a heavier barbell. And that will translate to a 1 rep max if we see those movements in the sense that you've been drilling that movement controlled well, the moving patterns getting more natural for you, you're getting better at it. Here's the deal. Between now and the open, there's a lot of things you can focus on. This might seem like I just vomited on a page, and if that's the case, I'm sorry if this isn't helpful for you. But I think it's wise to consider picking 2 to 3 of these movements to really try to dial in between now and the open, and to recognize that the ones in purple are the ones that have shown up every time. It will be an anomaly if they do not show up this time. The ones in pink here, it's very likely they're going to show up. They've been streaking ever since they've been put in. They've always been there. Actually, except the burpees. And then, these have all been in 9 of 10. They have, I don't know, I think these 2 have streaked every time for 9. And then these are the streaking ones, the red ones. But ultimately, all 11 of these movements that I listed are something that were very, very likely. Like if I had money to put down, I would say all 11 of those movements are going to show up. So picking 2 or 3 to say, I can tangibly get better at this between now and the open, and that's going to make a difference. I'm going to do better in it because of that. It could be fun. So talk to a coach. We'd love to help you. We'd love to help you get better. If you are like, how can I make my double unders better? I'm sure any of the coaches would love to give you tips and tricks on how to get better at that. Any of the other movements, we'd love to give you tips and tricks. But ultimately, it's time to start getting excited. Obviously, it's the Christmas season. That's enough reason to be excited. And then New Year's is after that, and we can put 2020 in the rearview mirror like we all want to. But then also, we have something to look forward to. The Open, something that is just, I think it's kind of really cool. It's the only thing that reminds me of like high school athletics in CrossFit, in the sense that like everyone's together, the Friday night lights of it, kind of everyone's cheering on everyone. There's this competitive spirit in the air. It's really fun. And if you've never done an open, you're going to love it. And it's all something that hopefully we can be looking forward to, anticipating, and even preparing for. So thank you for listening to me rant about some movements for a while. I hope this is helpful for you. I'll see you later.